What about you? In the garage today we have a 2010 model year Ford Focus, and this one has the 1.6 TDCi turbo diesel engine. Customer complaint is leaking injector. So when I say leaking, it's not leaking fuel, it's leaking combustion gases. So you can see this sort of black shiny stuff here, which is basically carbon deposits that's coming out of the combustion chamber. And the symptoms are, at first the guy told me that he could get a smell in the cabin of a carbon type, burning type smell, and you could hear the thing chuffing like a steam train. So we'll see if we can hear that. We'll have a wee look to see how bad this is. See if I can get a wee shot in around it there. It's actually not too bad. I've seen worse. I've seen it, you know, where the carbon is over the top of these screws here. You know, the fixing screws there. So it is breathing black around it. Let's say it's like a lava flow in there, just below the clamp. So we'll have to get this injector out and get her sealed up again. So this Ford turbo diesel engine 1.6, this is actually a PSA engine, so it's the same. You get this in a Peugeot, Citroën, pretty common problem. It is usually this cylinder here, which may be cylinder 3. This one here is the one that's clearly leaking combustion gases, and it's number 4. I'm saying, you know, PSA haven't made their mind up. Sometimes they count them 1, 2, 3, 4 that way, and sometimes it's 1, 2, 3, 4 that way. But it doesn't really matter. But you need to keep that in mind if you're counting cylinders and what have you. But anyway, so we can see we have a plastic rocker cover here, plastic intake manifold, and the high pressure lines go away down the back there. Off the inlet manifold, and so I think we'll take that scuttle panel off so we can get at the common rail, which is right down in the bowels. So wipers off and scuttle panel off, that's what I'm going to do first. So scuttle panel off, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get at this line here, which is way down the back. So we'll try and get you in here, maybe a bit shaky. See if we can see this here. So down the bottom left there, you can see where that line comes down there, and underneath the EGR cooler, that's a glow plug connector, and we're going to try and we need to get that nut there loosened. I think it's a 17mm, but it's right beneath this EGR cooler, so we may be able to slip a spanner and open ender underneath the EGR cooler. We may not have to remove this here as well, but we should be able to get it like that, I think. Some people would maybe just disconnect the line here, the high pressure line here, and just bend it out of the road, but I don't like bending high pressure lines, and you know, this will be a messy procedure. So you know, if that line stays up, yeah, you could maybe block it or something, but I like to remove the lines completely. So we've disconnected the electrical plugs there, and that holding bracket, so we'll get that, just move that out of the way. These wee leak off clips, yes, you can put a screwdriver in and prise them off, but ask me how I know. That's how they get lost and go into oblivion. So what I like to do is use a pair of long nose pliers so they're holding and don't go anywhere. And be careful with these plastic leak off pipes. You know, if you just put your fingers on it and give it a hoof, you can break these dead easy. So what you're better doing is getting a a wee screwdriver and helping it along by teasing it up with the screwdriver. And I've capped the holes off with their bits of rubber gloves and wee cable tie. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove this boost pipe, this wee bracket here, because there's a bolt underneath it which holds this rocker cover on, and we're going to take a rocker cover off, and we'll disconnect the lines and see what we've got. Right, with the rocker cover off, and I've stuffed the holes here with blue roll here. I'm going to put a wee M6 bolt in this rocker cover hole just to stop all the inevitable debris getting in. So we can see this sort of lava flow here, which we're going to chip away at. So we can get these lanes off. These lanes are held together here just at the top of the picture, and we'll take the two of them off, get them out of the way, and get those nozzles plugged. With the lines off then, let me see if we can take the 7mm holding nut off. So I already had it loosened there, and they're not that tight, those boys. So these here are just plugs that you would get, you know, from a fuel filter. When you buy fuel filters, you get wee caps on them. That's what they are. So it's just a matter of chipping away this stuff here, this lava flow here, and we'll get the vacuum cleaner out and just scrape away at it. A bit of scraping and vacuuming later. We've got most of all that stuff and gone, and I've managed to free up this clamp. So this clamp will move about. Let's see. So got that moving. So that's good. So what I did there, in case you're wondering, to get that clamp freed, I hit it a couple of smacks at the top, and also put, I think it was an 8mm socket over that, so it didn't touch the stud on either side. And done that a few times and wiggled her about and teased her up. The wee tap is just to break up any of the carbon that's in the threads there. So what I'm going to do, this thing is stuck tight, so I'm going to spray a bit of carb clean down in here. So what's that? That is carb cleaner. So I'll get a lot of that down in here. And I'm spraying it down the inside of the clamp, so hopefully it'll follow, capillary, it'll follow down the injector body, And we'll just tease away at her. And if I have to get some heavy tools out, then we will. But we'll let that soak in. So she needs a bit of encouragement, this here. So we're going to take this off. It's going to come off. There we go. And what you have to remember is there's a wee seal in behind here. See that wee silver boy there? So you're better getting the hold of that wee magnet. And put that in a safe place, leave that to the side. Put that in a magnetic dish. And what I have is, I have a spare one of these Bosch injectors, but I'm just using that bit there. And what you could maybe do is try and get an open ender in there, but it's very tight to the manifold. So I'm just going to screw that off. So all that is a bolt that's screwed onto the end of a spare one of these. So you can see the wee seal in that one. So we'll get that in and we'll use that as a lever. We'll give that a wee tighten. And we'll see what way this thing's going to go here. So we just want to rock it back and forward. Yeah, there we go. That's just coming. So wiggle, 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 wiggle. So you just have to watch these wee studs. I don't know where I said it before. These wee studs can break. They're only M6, and these boys here can snap on you. People, you know, sometimes you have to change these because, believe it or not, the engine oil can leak up through the threads where it's screwed into the head, and you get actually an engine oil leak on here. This isn't the case here now. We have not got an engine oil leak, so if you really hoofed at that, you would foul that wee stud there. So we just want to wiggle her about, just like you're loosening up a pair of pliers, you know. That'll come out dead on. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. So I'm giving her a wee pull up the way when I'm wiggling. So I'm now clearing the stud a wee bit, I think. Yes. Nope, still like that. I can get more of a turn on her. Clearing it now. Come on, baby. You know you want to. Oh. Yeah. And all the carbon's all sticky goo now with a carb cleaner. You maybe hear that. I didn't leave the carb cleaner in that long, like maybe 10 minutes or so. So there we go. And of course the copper washer's stuck down the hole. But sure, we'll get it out. So here's what we're left with. Bit of a mess. So we'll get the outside of this cleaned up first of all. We'll get a bit of a rag down the hole, and we'll take a wee look down inside to see what we'll have. Clearly our copper washer is still in there. There she is, and there's still a lot of that carbon in around it. So if I go to try to pull that out, it might be stuck in there, and so we'll need to clean that up first of all before we attempt to extract the washer. Right, so back on with the carb clean, and we'll just get her doused. Now, carb clean, I'm using carb clean. Brake cleaner, forget about it. It doesn't even look at it. Brake clean is no good. This stuff melts. I'm calling it carbon, but what it's actually like, it's more like tar, because you know what I think is sort of happening here is with the heat and the pressure of the diesel fuel, it's sort of going back to its original state. You know, whenever it's heated and it's put under pressure, and it's not actually ignited because it's escaping up the injector sleeve. So you know, it's sort of more like tar that you get on the roads, and you know, it's gone back to its sort of crude oil state. So the other thing about it is, you know, there's maybe people would say, oh, you're better heating the engine up. First of all, you know, to make that black carbon tar stuff soft. Well, that's fair enough. I don't particularly like, or do I recommend, people working on hot engines. You run the risk of stripping things if you do that. You run the risk of burning yourself, and you don't need to, because that carb cleaner there melts this stuff. So I'm just agitating the carb cleaner into it, and this thing will be like new afterwards. Right, that's all cleaned up on the outside anyway. It's still pretty bogging on the inside. So sprayed with carb cleaner, sucked up the excess with with a vacuum extractor, an oil extractor, and you know, give it a blow in airline. So not too bad. So what you want to do, the thing you want to make sure of is these seats of these bolts are clean, no carbon or tar, whatever you want to call it, on it. Also on the threads, you want the threads clean, because you don't want the clamping force of the injector being impeded in any way, you know. So pretty sort of common sense stuff really, and we're going to get as much as we can out of this hole here by squiddling this big long houser father about the place, you know. So we'll give that a bit of a hook. Just get the larger parts off it. So it's all pretty tacky now and sticky. And the amount of carb cleaner it's been about the place, you know. But it'll be dead on. So this black thing here, this is another seal, but this is an oil seal. So we're going to be replacing that as well. But that's an oil seal. There's also a plastic spacer that goes on top of that. That's in addition to the copper seal. The copper seal that is down on the head that seals the injector itself. So this here bit is an oil seal. So yeah, so we're gonna replace that as well. So it'll be standard practice when you do something like this. You know, you replace the whole thing. You get those seals all in a kit. I'll show you that coming up. But yeah, I did talk about earlier, I think I mentioned that these bolts can actually leak oil. So oil can leak up the threads where they're bolted into. So it's not a closed hole, that is just bolted into the head, and that is open to the you know, the oil inside. So they can actually migrate up, and these bolts can leak. Bit of a danger with these bolts as well. It's only M6. They can also snap. So it doesn't appear to be leaking oil on these bolts. So I'm happy enough for leaving as is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So to help us clean this this sleeve where the injector goes down into, it needs to be completely cleaned out. And our copper washer's still in there, so we get her cleaned as much as we can. It increases the chances of the copper washer. So another good stuff that works on this tar-like substance is ordinary cellulose thinners that any decent garage workshop should have basically on the shelf. So we're gonna get a bit of that on us there and get down in there with a screwdriver and get this sleeve cleaned out. Just using a 1/4 inch extension on it. Screwdriver, point of screwdriver just rips a rag, you know, goes to the end of the rag. So we'll just dip that in a wee bit of cellulose thinners and clean her out. Right, let's have a wee look at her now. See what she's like the new. So there we go. Sleeve nice and clean, and that's just by sticking a 1/4 inch driver on a rag with just soaked in cellulose thinners. You don't have to have it dripping off it. So I'm pretty happy to go for take that copper washer out at this stage then, because if you try to get that copper washer out and clearly, you know, well, it's glued in with that tar, it ain't going to come out. It's going to come out in bits if you get it out at all, you know. So you need to give yourself a chance, you know. So as with any failure that you get, you need to sort of consider, ask yourself sort of, well, what's the reason for failure, so that, you know, this thing isn't going to come back in a couple of weeks' time with the same problem. And this is the copper washer out of there. So we'll see if we can get in the shot there for you. And we can see that she ain't kind of around anymore in the middle hole there. So yeah, we did obviously put the extractor in it to pull her, but I think it's simply the seal. So it seems to be thick enough still there, but yeah, I'm pretty happy that that's been leaking out of there. Now you might think to yourself, you know, well, of course it's just going to be the seal. Sure, that's pretty obvious. That's what we're here to do. You know, the video is entitled Injector Seals. Well, it might not necessarily be the case, you know. So this is the injector come out, and this is fine. Like, I'm happy enough for this. But what we need to consider, we're going to focus. Yes, just be a wee bit patient. So, see if the edges of this is steel. So if the edge of this is rusted away, or the edge of this is damaged, if this isn't flat, see if any of these surfaces aren't flat. So you have a mating surface here, and you have a mating surface in the head, the aluminium head, you know. So if that's not flat, and the other one's not flat, if any of the two of those surfaces are compromised, this is going to leak, you know. And that's your problem. And that'll probably cause the destruction of the copper washer, you know, as well. So we need to check these things. We need to look at these mating surfaces to see if we're happy enough. And clearly this injector that we took out needs a good cleanup. So, you know, that's no problem. Just, you know, it's just a bit of elbow grease. It's time consuming. This job is time consuming to get this thing as clean as we possibly can. And if we can stay in focus for a minute. But I'm quite happy with the condition that you see some of these. You can maybe see some of these injectors, and the edges are eroded, you know. So and that isn't flat. But I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to cut this seat very, very slightly once I clean it up a wee bit more. That's in the head, and we'll talk a wee bit about that, just in case that yours is compromised. So it isn't looking actually too bad in there. There's a wee bit of tar or carbon, or whatever you want to call it. You know, clearly, you know, where the copper seal was that we couldn't clean out with the, you know, the initial clean of the sleeve. So we'll just get rid of loosen up the big bits, block off the hole, like so, and it's a bit like dentistry this here. So it is. Give her a blast. So let's see now. What does that look like? Let's get. Oh, that's my blower away there. So we'll give this a bit of a polish first on the drill, and we'll do a wee light cut on it. Yeah, we'll give her a bit of a polish first. Getting there. Now, if you're worried about getting some carb cleaner or whatever it is you're using down into the cylinder, well, this piston here is breathing high. You can actually nearly see the top of it there in the middle. You see the wee dimple, and well, you can just give it a blow with the air line there. It's dead on. Any residuals lying on top of the piston, you know, by the time all this is done, it'll probably have you know, evaporated anyway. But yeah, the only thing, if you are worried about it and you see the top of the piston wet, you know, you get the where is it? Hold on, it's over here. You get the trusty old extractor in on it there, and that'll go right down. This one here will go right down onto the piston crown, so you can give it a wee suck if you want. Well, it doesn't look too bad, you know, but we'll give her a wee light ream. It's come up quite well there. So our reamers there. So this is the copper washer that came off it. So that looks about right. So that there's 17 mil. So that's a 17 mil there, and that's 17 mil here on the body as well. There we go, 17 by 17. We'll get that one in there. And she's wobbling about a brave bit. Bit too loose. So this one's 17 by 17.5. So this bit here's the 17.5. Slightly bigger. Better. And what I like to do is put a dollop of grease on the cutting surface there. So the idea of that is any wee fragments of the aluminium from the aluminium head will get caught in the grease. And here we go. I'm just going to do a light couple of turns. Hardly any pressure on it at all. Okay, we look at that. Yeah. Dead on. And a quick polish. There we go, a bit of a clean and a blowout, and happy with that. So here's our replacement parts, and these are genuine Peugeot Citroën, and in this little bag we get a few wee bits, 4 pieces altogether. So we'll have this plastic spacer, a new oil O-ring for the top of it. This goes on the injector. It's a new ring, and that's what the clamp pushes down on. That's what actually is pushing, is pressing down on this then, which is a genuine sealing washer. So we'll have all these parts, so we'll replace all that. So we'll get a wee bit of tissue down the hole. Just to protect our good work, we'll see if we can get this out. So we'll see if we can get a pick on it here. Just ripped. There's a metal ring on it, so we'll have to get underneath that and give her a wee prise. Right, might be better with a flat blade underneath this metal ring. She's starting to go now. There we go. So we'll just give the recess a wee bit of a clean out. So this stage, this installation can be a bit tricky. Believe it or not, there is a special tool for you can do this here with, but you know, nobody uses it that I know of or has it. So what we do is we get a socket. Now this particular one is a, what is this, a 14 mil, but it doesn't really matter the internal diameter. It's the external diameter is what we're using here. So the external diameter depends on the thickness of the wall of the socket that you're going to use. You know, you put that in and you hold that out, you know. So so the idea is that we put it over the internal sleeve there, and then we slide it down so that the inside of the lip of this goes in the inside of the lip of the internal sleeve there. So that's the idea. So I'll get a bit of lubrication around this here. I think some people probably use WD-40 and whatever else. I don't like using WD-40 on rubber components, so I'm going to use some silicone spray, and we'll see how this goes. So there we go. So the lip of that seal has to be on the inside of that sleeve. So there's no point it being over the top, and yeah, that just keeps everything out of the injector hole. And I think it is an oil seal. I think oil can get into that gallery there, but that's replaced now anyway. Right. So now to clean up this injector, and so there's this carbon tarry stuff here, and you know, if there's a large quantity of it, you know, you could give it a bit of a heat with a heat gun and clean it up, you know, or you could chip it away or wire wheel it. I'm just going to give it a gentle heat and see. It's not too bad. This thing here is a wee plastic sphere, so we'll see it in a minute. This face then, you need to, you know, make sure this face is lovely and flat. What you can do is, see your reamer tool, you can put it on the other way around and you can give that a bit of a scootle, and that'll clean up that face for you, nice and easy. So what we'll have here is clearly the clamp, and I mentioned it, or we saw it in the wee pack. See the wee retainer spring that we buy there. So that's that in there, and then you have a plastic spacer. So that by there, and then you have the that oil seal, which goes up there. So that plastic spacer presses down on that oil seal. So that's our old one. So what we need to will give us all this body a clean up. Remove that plastic spacer, take that spring out, make sure the groove and all is all cleaned out and that there, and that gives us a good clean it right up to this body here. So the whole thing, and we'll be ready to put it in. Injector all cleaned up, so we're gonna assembler here in the vise. So clamp on, make sure it's the right way around. So that's that recess that spring goes into there. So get her on, and this spring has a split in it, and we'll get her up so far, and that's as far as she's going to go for the moment. What we'll do, we'll get a ring spanner on her by it, like that. Get over that wee lip. I'll get a bigger ring spanner, as an 18mm. Get her the rest of the way. Oh, there's another wee lip to go over it. Right, I had to tease her over with a screwdriver there, backing onto the ring spanner. So, tricky enough, wee boy, didn't film it. Anyway, get her the rest of the way. That's that on, and our white piece, which all it is spacer, and we'll slide that on. That fits on there. So what's left? Oh yes, our copper washer on there, and it's quite loose on there, so we'll probably just drop that in first and get the injector in. I'll get my wiggle bolt out as well. So injector back in again, and the lines there, they're just hand tight, and you do put the line on before you clamp her down, so that she's in the exact position that you want it to be. Now, I can't stress enough, those wee M6 studs, they do snap very, very easily. You know, you don't swing on these. The torque setting, you know, for different sort of models, there are different sort of torques, but roughly speaking, it's in around 7 Newton meters, which is basically, you know, hand tight. 7 Newton meters plus 65 degrees, something like that. What's that, about an eighth of a turn or something, just over it. So it's not really that much to clamp on down. We have a new rocker cover gasket. Just a wee thing before I put this thing back there again. I'm not going to film all that, but it's just assembly. Part numbers. I was asked recently on an older video to supply part numbers by a commenter, and I told him, if you want part numbers, go to your dealer or somewhere that gives you part numbers. You go to a shop or an online shop or something like that, somewhere that gives you part numbers. You don't go to some guy on YouTube and ask him for, or me, or whoever it is, for part numbers for your car, your make, model, year, and region as well, and all that. Part numbers can be superseded. So, you know, YouTube isn't the right place for to ask for part numbers.
What the hell is the world coming to?
Well said, Jackie. All we disconnected there was the 2 steel high pressure lines off these 2 injectors to get them out of the way. Now, as long as you don't break the low pressure side, so that's the pipes that come from the fuel tank into the filter, you shouldn't need to do any bleeding. You know, you will have to crank it maybe a few times because there will be air in this line, but as the injector opens, that air will soon be pushed through and into the cylinder. So, you know, your car, you might get it might be a wee bit of cranking, but there's no real bleeding required. If you really have a lot of trouble, if you have all 4 lanes off, and you have the common rail completely vacant the fuel or whatever, it all leaks out, sometimes you may need to crack these wee lines. Now there's special, you need to take precautions. These are serious high pressure fuel, so if you do have to crack these lines to bleed them, be extra careful with that. But I'd recommend crank away at it, build up the pressure, leave it sitting. Don't crank it too much as to overheat your starter motor or whatever, and you'll get her going. Let me see what else. Oh yes, the nuts on the clamps on the rest of the injectors. That's these boys in here. You will probably find that they could do with just a wee nip, a wee tighten. So not too much, but you usually find that these have loosened up over time. And to prevent then the other ones from leaking combustion in the future, it's worthwhile while you're here, 2 minutes does it, just a wee quick nip, 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 nip. Okay, these leak off pipes, these plastic ones, you'll have to be careful with. It's worthwhile looking at the wee green seal that's around it. Make sure they're in good condition. These ones here were fine on mine, but that's the opportunity to change them if necessary. And the other thing that I want to point out is the stuff that I was saying there, the carb cleaner and cellulose thinners to clean the tar or carbon off the aluminium. Some people might say, well, we can use other products and use oven cleaner, and namely Mr. Muscle oven cleaner that's available in the UK. As far as I know, that's only available in the UK only because it is pretty potent. Active ingredient of oven cleaner is sodium hydroxide, which is an alkali. That is corrosive to aluminium. It's fine on ovens because what you're cleaning in an oven is enamel. But for plastics and aluminium, it's pretty corrosive, and I therefore do not recommend that. To do that. Use it if you want, but it's entirely at your own risk. And the stuff that I showed you there cleans that tar off the very best. The only other thing I can say before I forget is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 injectors. As I said right at the start of the video, PSA and Peugeot, they can't seem to make their mind up whether they count them 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4 that way. Doesn't really matter. If you're taking out a couple of injectors. These injectors are coded, so you know, just put a label on them, you know, number 3 or number 4, and using whatever reference system you wish. You can call them apples, oranges, and bananas and pears if you wish, whatever it is, as long as you use the same reference system, it doesn't really matter. But you know, as long as you put, if you decide to call that number 3 there, and you label it number 3, and you take out that one there and you label it number 1, and as long as you put them in again in the correct and where they came out, then you don't need to worry about any coding or any malarkey. So there we go. Wee bit more to do here. Just put that scuttle panel on, the wipers back on. That'll take 10 minutes. I'm going to do a test drive. I'm going to scan the car, do a full system scan for the punter for codes. He may have a cylinder 4 misfire code. There might be some other things in it which might be worth mentioning. A recommendation: this car is new to me. It hasn't been in my garage before. It usually goes to his local mechanic. This guy's came a bit of a distance with this car. His local mechanic didn't want to tackle that. As some people, eagle-eyed viewers, may have noticed, there were witness marks on the side of that injector. I did not put those there. Some guy already had a bit of a go at it, and he says, "Oh, that's stuck in. I don't want to touch that." He was scared of breaking the injector or something. I don't know. He was put off it anyway, and well, he didn't really go that far. I think he just seen that it was stuck in, so it wasn't really that stuck in. Seen a lot worse. And you know, you might say, "Oh, that's hardly nothing." You know, taking the tar off cold, it's just a matter of chipping it away, stripping it away. Time-consuming job, time-consuming to get it as clean as I did there. You know, but yeah, that's all so that the customer, he'll look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that's fantastic." You know, you don't want to give the car back and there's still a load of gunk around it, even though it's you know, the injector is sealed again. So, anywho, that's all I'm going to tell you. Thanks very much for watching, as ever, and what do you think, Poppy?